I've been married to my wife, Claire, for 7 years. We met in college. She was the type who could walk into a room and make everyone stop talking, like she pulled the oxygen out of the place without meaning to. Back then, I thought that kind of magnetism was a blessing. Now, I'm not so sure. I manage logistics for a construction firm, boring stuff, lots of numbers, long hours. Claire works in marketing. She's always been social, the kind who knows everyone's birthday, always networking. It used to make me proud, the way she handled herself. But lately, that same charm started feeling like a loaded weapon pointed just past my shoulder. It started small. Her phone was always face down. She used to leave it on the counter, screen lighting up like a lighthouse. Now it was like the thing had a secret life. She'd get messages at odd hours, just work stuff, she said, and I wanted to believe her. But she'd smirk at the screen, type fast, and lock it before I could even glance at the reflection on the microwave door. The late night started after that. Client meetings. Campaign deadlines. Team drinks. The kind of excuses that sounded too ordinary to question. I told myself she was just climbing the ladder, doing what ambitious people do. Still, my gut was whispering things I didn't want to hear. One night, she came home with lipstick smudged, but not hers. Different shade, darker, maybe from a friend's hug, maybe not. When I mentioned it, she laughed. You notice everything, don't you? Maybe you should try noticing when I'm actually trying for you. That one stung. I tried to laugh it off, but something cracked inside me. The next few weeks were a blur of polite distance. I cooked. She scrolled. We went to bed at different hours. Even our silences felt staged, like we were both actors trying to hit emotional marks. Then came the scent, something foreign, not her perfume, not mine. A musky, expensive cologne that didn't belong in our house. I asked about it once, half joking, and she rolled her eyes. Maybe you're losing it, Jack. Maybe it's your own aftershave. But I don't wear cologne. I never have. That's when I started paying attention, really paying attention. I noticed the new lingerie that appeared out of nowhere. The gym membership she suddenly wanted, though she barely went. The long showers. The sudden bursts of kindness, making my favorite dinner, kissing me on the neck while I was working. Guilt has a smell, and once you know it, you can't unsmell it. I didn't say anything yet. Not then. But I started keeping notes, dates, times, the excuses she gave. I told myself it was paranoia. Maybe it was. But even paranoia feels like sanity when you're drowning in doubt. The thing is, I still loved her. Or maybe I loved the version of her I thought I knew. I couldn't bring myself to accuse her, not without proof. I wanted to be wrong. God, I needed to be wrong. That's where things stood, until the night everything shifted. I wish I could say there was one big reveal, like in the movies, some dramatic confession or lipstick on the collar, but it wasn't like that. It was quieter, almost polite. Betrayal often is. It waits until you're comfortable, then knocks gently before stepping inside. It started with her laptop. Claire had always been protective of her tech, but she'd never passworded her computer before. One morning, she left it open on the kitchen counter while she got ready for work. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just making coffee. The screen pinged, new message, Slack, work group chat. I glanced. I shouldn't have. But I did. The message was from someone named T. Short, flirty tone. Last night was wild. Can't stop thinking about you. I froze. My stomach felt like it had dropped into my shoes. My brain did that thing where it tries to protect you, telling you it must be a joke, an inside thing, a meme you don't get. But then I saw her reply, "You're trouble. Stop it. I'm still at home." The kind of reply that sounds like a no but reads like a yes. She came down the hall just then, heels clicking like gunshots. I closed the laptop and stirred my coffee as if nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek on the way out. "Have a good day," she said. And that was it. She left me with that smile, the one she used to save for me. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. I sat there staring at the wall, the coffee gone cold. I kept hearing her laugh in my head, the way it used to sound, and I wondered if she ever laughed like that with him. By noon, I'd convinced myself to check her phone. I told myself it was wrong, but the truth had already started leaking into me. There was no putting it back. She'd changed her passcode recently, but I'm not an amateur. I knew her patterns. Birthdays, dog names, reversed numbers. Took me 4 tries. And then, there it was, her private world, humming behind glass. Most of it was innocent enough. Group chats, family, coworkers. But one thread stood out, buried in archived messages, under a man's name I didn't recognize, Tom. I opened it. First message: "You made me crazy last night." Then pictures. Blurry, close-up, nothing explicit but enough to kill the air in the room. A hotel room mirror, her reflection. Same dress she wore to a client dinner 2 weeks ago. I scrolled, my hands shaking. There were dozens of messages. Her words were different with him, shorter, wilder, like she'd peeled off her skin and put on someone else's. "Can't stop thinking about you. We have to be careful. Jack's getting suspicious." That last one hit me harder than I expected. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was strategic. She'd been planning her lies around me like I was a piece on her chessboard. I stopped reading. I couldn't anymore. I just sat there, her phone in my hand, feeling like I was holding a live grenade. I put it back exactly where it was and walked out of the house. I didn't know where I was going, just not there. I drove until I ended up by the bay, where we used to go when we were first dating. The water looked the same, but I wasn't. I tried to imagine a version of my life where I didn't know what I now knew. It didn't exist anymore. That night, she came home acting like nothing had changed. She asked if I wanted Thai or Italian for dinner, as if we were still us. I told her I wasn't hungry. She said I looked tired. I said, "Yeah, just a long day." She went to bed early. I stayed up late, watching the clock. 11:45, 12:30, 1:10. Every tick was a nail in something I hadn't buried yet. I didn't confront her that night. Not yet. I needed more than evidence, I needed clarity. Proof is just data. Understanding is something else entirely. So I started planning. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the living room, watching shadows move across the walls, counting every sound that wasn't her breathing. By morning, I decided I wasn't going to scream, throw anything, or play the cliché. If I was going to confront Claire, I was going to do it clean, like cutting a thread. I made breakfast. She came into the kitchen, hair still damp, smelling like citrus shampoo. For a second, I almost believed we were normal again. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, poured her coffee, and asked if I'd remembered to pay the electric bill. The small talk of people who've already left each other. I waited until she sat down. "Who's Tom?" I asked. Her spoon froze midair. She blinked once, then again, too slow, too deliberate. "What?" "You heard me." There was a pause, then a laugh, sharp and dismissive. "You're unbelievable, Jack." Snooping through my phone now. "I didn't answer your question." She sighed, rolled her eyes. "He's a coworker." "God, you're paranoid. You need to stop watching those stupid detective shows." I didn't say anything. Just looked at her. The kind of silence that forces truth into the air. She shifted, looked away. "You're crazy," she said, her voice lower now. You've been under stress. You think everyone's lying to you. Maybe talk to someone. There it was, the gaslight. Smooth, polished, weaponized. I almost admired it. I saw the messages, Claire. Her head snapped toward me. For a second, there was nothing on her face, just a blank calculation. Then she smiled again, small, brittle. You read private conversations? Do you realize how violating that is? Do you realize how humiliating this is? The smile broke. Her lips trembled, but her eyes stayed cold. It didn't mean anything, she said, fast, like if she said it quickly enough it would stick. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I was lonely. You're never home, you're always working, what did you expect? Every excuse lined up, rehearsed. She'd been building them long before this day. I stood up, pacing because I didn't trust myself to stand still. You planned this. You lied every day. You looked me in the eye. Oh, stop being dramatic. She pushed back from the table, crossed her arms. You act like I murdered someone. You've been distant for months. Maybe if you actually paid attention, I wouldn't have. Wouldn't have what? Cheated? Wouldn't have felt like I was living with a ghost, she shouted. You stopped touching me. You stopped looking at me. I needed to feel alive again. There it was, the line. The self-justification that turns betrayal into victimhood. I could feel something inside me harden. She started crying, but I'd seen her cry before, tears that came too easily, that turned off like a faucet when they stopped being useful. I'm sorry, she whispered, reaching for me. Please, Jack. I'll end it. I swear. I stepped back. You already did. She froze. For once, she didn't have a comeback. I left the kitchen, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. The cold hit me like a slap. I could still hear her crying through the walls, but I didn't go back. I drove again, no destination, just motion. I pulled over in a grocery store parking lot and sat there until the sun came up higher. I realized something then, I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself, for believing her, for building my life around someone who treated loyalty like an accessory she could take off when it didn't match her outfit. I wasn't ready to make decisions yet. But I knew the investigation wasn't over. People lie, but patterns don't. I needed to know everything, how long, where, why. Closure wasn't just emotional for me, it was forensic. And if she thought I was done looking, she didn't know me at all. After that morning, the house went silent. Claire moved through it like a ghost, quiet, careful, pretending the world hadn't cracked open. She still made coffee, still left lipstick on mugs, still texted like nothing had happened. I let her. I wanted her to believe the lie that I'd dropped it. In truth, I was watching everything. I've always been methodical. My work depends on it, logistics, schedules, patterns. You start seeing how one small inconsistency can unravel a whole system. A marriage isn't that different. I started with her phone again, but this time, I didn't need to touch it. People leave digital fingerprints everywhere. The shared family iCloud account was still active, she'd forgotten I set it up years ago. That gave me access to backups, photos, timestamps, GPS tags. Most people don't realize how much a device remembers when its owner wants to forget. The first thing I noticed was the hotel. Linden Suites, room 214. A few pictures she deleted from her camera roll still lingered in cloud storage. Same mirror as before. Same date stamp as that, client dinner. The room was 20 minutes from her office, near a bar called the Redwood. I started going there after work, sitting at the counter, nursing a beer I didn't want. It was the kind of place where everyone looked tired for different reasons. I watched the door for 3 nights straight. On the 4th, she walked in, with him. He wasn't what I expected. No swagger, no villain aura. Just a man. Mid-30s, generic handsome, the type who probably called himself a good guy. I recognized him from her company's Christmas photo, the guy she said was too boring to flirt with anyone. They sat at the same booth. I watched her laugh, touch his wrist, lean close. She looked young again. Alive. And I realized I was watching a version of her I didn't know anymore. They left an hour later, together. I followed them at a distance, nothing cinematic, just steady. They went to the same hotel. Linden Suites. Room 214. Patterns don't lie. I sat in my car across the street, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel until they hurt. Every instinct screamed at me to go up there, to kick the door open, to see it with my own eyes. But I didn't. Not yet. I wanted to see the full picture before I decided what to do with it. Over the next week, I built a timeline. Work calls, her supposed meetings, gas receipts, card statements, hotel visits. She wasn't even trying to hide it well anymore, because she didn't think she had to. I realized then that betrayal isn't just about sex or lies. It's about contempt. The quiet confidence that you'll never get caught because the other person loves you too much to look. But I looked. I even found his address. It wasn't hard. A few LinkedIn connections, a property search, and there it was, condo near the marina. I drove by once. Lights off, blinds half open, a record spinning on a turntable. I could picture her there, barefoot, drinking wine, pretending she wasn't married. I didn't confront them. Not then. I was calm, colder than I expected. Rage had burned out, replaced by precision. At home, she'd started acting like we were fixing things. She'd cook dinner, ask about my day, even reached for my hand during a movie. It was surreal. Every time she smiled, I saw the hotel room behind her eyes. One night, she came to bed late. I pretended to be asleep. I heard her whispering, soft, intimate. Then the click of her phone camera, as if she was sending proof to someone that she was home. The performance was immaculate. That's when I decided to record her. I set up a small camera in the hallway, motion activated. Nothing invasive, just the entryway and kitchen. It didn't take long. 2 days later, she let him in. Middle of the afternoon. Sunlight flooding through the blinds. She laughed as she led him to the bedroom. I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't need to. The audio was enough. Her voice, playful, careless. The same tone she used when she used to talk to me. That night, I copied the footage onto a flash drive and locked it in my desk. Not for revenge, yet. For truth. People think closure comes from confrontation. It doesn't. It comes from certainty. She still didn't know I knew everything. I wanted to keep it that way a little longer. I wanted to see what a liar looks like when they think they're safe. There's a certain kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from pressure. That was our house now. Every meal, every word, every glance felt rehearsed. She smiled, I nodded. She lied, I pretended not to notice. We were two actors waiting for the curtain to drop. I'd collected everything I needed. Photos, timestamps, footage. Enough to convince a jury, if there'd been one. But what I really wanted wasn't legal or moral. It was personal. I wanted her to face what she'd done, stripped of the performance, without a script to hide behind. The breaking point came on a Friday. She said she had a team dinner at 7. I said I'd be working late. We kissed goodbye like strangers reenacting intimacy for an audience of none. As soon as she left, I followed. Sure enough, she drove straight to Linden Suites. I parked across the street again, watching her check in with the same practiced ease. It wasn't even guilt anymore, it was routine. I waited 10 minutes, then got out of the car. Inside, the lobby smelled like cheap disinfectant and stale perfume. The clerk didn't look up. I took the elevator, stopped at the second floor, and walked down the hall until I saw it, room 214. The door was cracked, not enough to see through, but enough to hear her laugh. I didn't kick it open. I just stood there, listening. A part of me, the part that still remembered our wedding day, her nervous smile, the way she said my name like it meant something, didn't want to know what was happening behind that door. But another part, colder, sharper, needed to hear it. Then I heard her say his name. Tom. Soft, intimate, careless. The sound of it broke something in me that I didn't think could still break. I walked away. Down the stairs, out into the night. I didn't go home. I drove until the city lights disappeared behind me, until there was nothing but dark highway and the hum of the tires. I pulled over somewhere past the county line, killed the engine, and sat in the quiet. That's when the anger came, not loud or dramatic, but deep, surgical. I wasn't angry at her anymore. Not exactly. I was angry at the version of myself that kept forgiving her every time she lied. I realized I'd been negotiating with a ghost, trying to save a marriage that only existed in my head. The next morning, I went home. She was already there, wearing one of my shirts, barefoot, pretending she'd just woken up. She smiled. "You're home early." I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger who'd learned all my habits, all my weaknesses, and used them like tools. "I know everything," I said. She froze, the smile still half on her face. "Jack, please. I know about the hotel. The texts. The photos. The videos. All of it." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You were spying on me." I was confirming what I already knew. She stepped closer, shaking her head. "It's not what you think. Don't." My voice surprised even me. Calm, steady, absolute. "Don't lie again. I've had enough of those to last a lifetime." She started crying, again, those practiced tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought we were over." "But you never said that," I said. "You just decided for both of us." She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "I loved you," I said. "Even when I shouldn't have. But love without honesty isn't devotion, it's slavery." Her face twisted, like she didn't understand the language anymore. "So what now?" "Now," I said. "Now we stop pretending." I walked out. Packed a bag. Left the flash drive on the kitchen table, right next to her coffee mug. She'd find it eventually. She'd see herself through my eyes, the truth she'd buried under all her excuses. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. But as I drove away, I realized something. Revenge wasn't about punishment. It was about ending the story before it killed me, too. I was done being her witness. I was ready to be free. When I left the house that morning, I didn't expect her to follow me. But she did. Not immediately. Claire never acted on impulse unless it benefited her. 2 days passed before I heard from her again. 2 quiet days that felt like air after suffocation. On the 3rd morning, there was a knock at my motel door. Not frantic. Just measured. Like someone who already knew they'd be let in. I opened it. There she was, hoodie, sunglasses, no makeup. The armor of someone who wants to look small and sorry. "Can we talk?" she asked. I should have said no. I didn't. Old reflexes die hard. She walked in like she still had the right to. Looked around at the single bed, the open suitcase, the TV flickering silently. "This is where you've been staying," she said, almost disgusted. Then she caught herself. I mean, it's just not you. I sat down. What do you want, Claire? She didn't answer right away. She just looked at me, trying to read whether there was anything left to save. Then, I watched it. The flash drive. Good, I said. She swallowed. You didn't have to do that, Jack. You could have just talked to me. I did. You lied. That landed. I saw it in the twitch of her jaw. It wasn't like that, she started, then stopped. Okay, it was. But it wasn't about him. It was about us. I felt invisible. And so you made me disappear. She sat on the edge of the bed, eyes red, fingers twisting the drawstring of her hoodie. I didn't think you'd find out. That line almost made me laugh. It was the truest thing she'd said in months. I leaned back against the wall. What do you want me to say, Claire? That I understand. That I forgive you. You didn't come here for closure. You came here because you lost control of the story. That hit her harder than I expected. Her face hardened. You're not innocent, Jack. You made me feel unwanted. I made you feel accountable, I said. You mistook that for neglect. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just the hum of the motel air conditioner between us. Then she stood up, wiped her face, and said, So that's it? You're just going to walk away? Yeah, I said. This time, I actually am. She looked at me, really looked. For once, I think she realized she couldn't talk her way out of it. You're colder than I thought, she said quietly. I nodded. No, Claire. Just done. She left without another word. I waited until I heard the car start before letting out the breath I'd been holding since she knocked. That should have been the end, but endings are rarely clean. The next week, I started getting calls, her friends, her sister, even her mother. All variations of the same question, why are you doing this to her? She'd gotten ahead of it, spun her story before I could tell mine. According to her, I'd become unstable, paranoid, emotionally abusive. I didn't defend myself. You can't win an argument with someone who's already rehearsed your lines for you. Instead, I went quiet. I changed my number, filed for separation, moved my things into storage. My lawyer said the evidence I had would make the divorce clean and fast. No contest. It wasn't about winning, it was about not letting her rewrite the ending. But even with the legalities moving, the nights got heavy. The silence, the empty side of the bed, it all started feeling like proof of failure. Betrayal does something strange to your sense of self. You start doubting your own worth, even when you know the fault wasn't yours. I tried distractions. Long drives. Books. Late-night diners. I'd catch myself watching couples and wondering which one of them would end up here next year, staring at cold eggs and bad coffee, trying to make sense of how something sacred became disposable. One night, around 2 a.m., she texted me. Claire, I miss you. Can we please talk? I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. That was the first time I chose myself over her. I used to think silence was protection. I thought that if I kept my head down, didn't rise to her bait, and just let the truth sit there, eventually it would speak for itself. It doesn't work that way. Silence is a vacuum, and people like Claire fill vacuums with noise. It started with mutual friends. The ones who'd been at our wedding, the ones who'd sent Christmas cards with, to Jack and Claire, the perfect couple. They started texting me things like, hey, man, I heard you've been going through some stuff, just wanted to check in. The kind of phrasing that means they've already picked a side. She'd told them I'd lost it after a career setback. That I'd grown distant, controlling. That she'd made a mistake, but she was scared of how I'd react. The story was neat, emotionally tidy, and just close enough to plausible to stick. Claire always did understand presentation. I didn't fight back publicly. I didn't post, didn't defend, didn't engage. But I did start documenting again, every text, every call, every message from her or anyone else she sent my way. You learn quickly that truth without records is just opinion. A week later, I got served. Not divorce papers, she hadn't gotten that far yet, but a request for mediation. The letter was written in that syrupy legal language that pretends cooperation. She wanted to discuss settlement terms amicably. Translation, she wanted to control the narrative before the evidence surfaced. I met her at the mediator's office downtown. Neutral ground, beige walls, bottled water on the table. She was already there, in a gray suit, her hair pinned up. Corporate remorse. She smiled when she saw me, like we were just two professionals resolving a minor workplace dispute. "Jack," she said softly. "You look good." I nodded. "You don't." The mediator, a man in his 50s with a voice like an NPR host, tried to start things politely. "We're just here to facilitate open communication." "I'm not here to communicate," I said. "I'm here to finalize." Claire's expression flickered. "We don't have to be like this. We already are." I opened the folder I'd brought and slid a few printed screenshots across the table, photos, text transcripts, timestamps. Her color drained just enough to tell me she hadn't expected I'd organize everything. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The silence did the work. The mediator cleared his throat. "It seems Mr. Holloway is prepared to proceed with documentation." "I'm sure we can work something out privately," Claire interrupted. Her voice had that tremor again, half shame, half performance. I looked at her and said, "There is no private anymore." "You made sure of that." That was the moment the mask cracked. Her eyes hardened, her posture shifted, and the real Claire, the one behind all the charm, looked at me. Cold, calculating, cornered. "You think you've won something," she said. "You're just proving my point." "What point's that?" "That you're vindictive." "Maybe," I said. "But at least I'm honest about it." She stood, grabbed her bag, and walked out without another word. The mediator sighed. That went about as well as I expected. I gathered my papers, thanked him, and left. Outside, the sky had gone gray, and rain was starting to fall. I stood there a long time, watching the drops hit the pavement, thinking about how every ending feels the same, quiet, wet, and heavier than it should. That night, she called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail anyway. Her voice was different, lower, tired, like she was finally starting to hear herself. "Jack. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't fix it, but I don't want to hate each other." I listened twice. Not because I believed her, but because I wanted to understand what she thought sorry could buy. Then I deleted it. Again. After that, I stopped checking the shared accounts, stopped driving by the places we used to go. I realized something simple: revenge ends when indifference begins. And for the first time in months, I was almost there. There's a point where exhaustion becomes clarity. That's where I landed, not angry anymore, not grieving, just emptied out in a way that made space for something else. I didn't know what to call it yet, but it felt like the start of living without flinching. I moved into a small apartment on the edge of the city, 2 rooms and a balcony that overlooked the streetlights. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night there, I didn't unpack. I just sat on the floor with a bottle of bourbon and watched headlights drift across the ceiling. No lies. No performance. Just the quiet hum of new air in my lungs. Claire was still out there, spinning whatever version of the story made her look like the wounded one. I'd hear from mutuals now and then, "She's having a hard time," or "She regrets everything." I stopped replying. Not out of spite, but because I didn't care anymore. The worst thing you can do to someone who thrives on control is refuse to participate in their theater. Work helped. Numbers don't lie, and spreadsheets don't cheat. My co-workers gave me that cautious sympathy people reserve for tragedies they don't want to look at too closely. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. The ring-shaped tan line on my finger said enough. But healing wasn't linear. Some nights, I still woke up expecting to hear her footsteps. I'd catch myself checking my phone, half hoping for a message that never came. Then I'd remember that I'd already read every word she had to offer, and none of them meant what they should have. About a month in, I got an email from her lawyer, short, transactional. The divorce was finalized. No contest. Clean break. Just like that, 7 years condensed into a single PDF. I didn't celebrate. I just sat at my desk and stared at the screen. It felt less like freedom and more like the end of a long interrogation. When you live in lies long enough, the truth doesn't feel liberating, it feels alien. Still, life crept back in, slow and steady. I started running again, cooking for myself, even smiling at strangers without feeling like I was wasting an expression. It wasn't joy yet, but it was movement. One evening, I ran into an old friend from college, Laura. We grabbed coffee, talked about nothing and everything. She didn't ask about Claire. She didn't have to. She just said, "You look tired," and I said, "Yeah, but it's the good kind." That night, I realized I hadn't thought about revenge in weeks. I'd been chasing justice like it would fix me, but all it ever did was keep me tied to her. Forgiveness was never for her, it was for me. Not absolution. Just release. I went through the house once more in my mind, all the memories sealed up like boxes in storage, our first Christmas, our fights, the small smiles that used to mean something. I didn't need to unpack them. I just needed to know they existed somewhere, contained. A week later, I got one last message from her. Just one line. "Claire, I hope you find peace." No apology. No explanation. Just that. And for once, I didn't overanalyze it. I didn't reply, didn't save it, didn't let it sting. I deleted it, went out on the balcony, and let the night wind hit my face. Peace wasn't something you found. It was something you built, brick by quiet brick, after everything had burned down. That's when I realized, I hadn't lost her. I just finally stopped chasing someone who was never mine to begin with. It's been almost a year since the day I walked out of that house. Some mornings I still wake up expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen, or see her shoes by the door. Habit lingers longer than love. But the ache isn't sharp anymore, it's just a dull echo that reminds me where I've been. When I started writing all this down, I didn't plan to. I just wanted to get it out of me, like draining poison. Turns out, telling the truth, even to strangers on the internet, is a kind of freedom. If you're reading this because something feels off in your relationship, because your gut won't quiet down, listen to it. People love to romanticize trust, but trust without verification isn't loyalty, it's blindness. And blindness is how you get broken. Looking back, the signs were always there. The sudden distance. The phone always flipped screen down. The new perfume. The nights that didn't add up. I noticed them all, but I kept choosing comfort over confrontation. I thought love meant patience, forgiveness, endurance. But sometimes, love means walking away before you're turned into a version of yourself you can't respect. There's this strange thing that happens after betrayal, you start measuring time by what you didn't see. You replay every conversation, every laugh, every touch, trying to find the moment it all changed. Here's the truth, it doesn't matter. The why won't save you. Understanding doesn't undo the damage. Acceptance does. If I could give anyone advice, it'd be this. Don't chase closure. You won't get it from the person who broke you, they've already proven they can't give you honesty. Closure isn't a gift someone hands you. It's a decision you make in silence when you finally realize you don't need their apology to move forward. Don't make revenge your religion. It feels good in theory, but all it does is keep you orbiting the wreckage. Indifference is quieter, slower, but it's the real win. You know you've healed when their name stops tasting like metal in your mouth. And most of all, don't lose yourself trying to understand why they lied. Some people lie because they can't stand the reflection of what they've done. Others lie because it works. Either way, it's not your job to fix the part of them that broke you. These days, I still catch myself thinking about the good years. The laughter. The nights we stayed up until 2 talking about nothing. I let those memories exist without bitterness. They belong to 2 people who don't exist anymore, and that's okay. Sometimes I sit on my balcony and watch the city lights. There's a peace to it. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind that comes from surviving something you never thought you would. I don't need to hate her. I don't need to love her. I just need to live the rest of my life like it's finally mine again. If anyone out there is where I was, suspicious, scared, half in love and half in denial, know this, it gets better. It really does. You won't forget, but you'll stop bleeding from it. One morning you'll wake up, look in the mirror, and realize the reflection staring back isn't a victim anymore. It's someone who made it out. And that, my friends, is the closest thing to justice you'll ever get. If you want more stories that spark your imagination, subscribe to the channel and come back for the next chapter. There's always another tale waiting.